What's going on, guys? McDowell here with a guide for my Budget Explode Righteous Fire Inquisitor. We're going to go over the gear, all the gem links, we're going to go over the skill tree, Atlas passives, all of that stuff. So if that interests you, stick around. Alright, I thought we would start with a map showcase here. So we've got Sextants on. We are running Stream of Consciousness on the Atlas tree. Red Influence. Domination on the Atlas, pardon me, the map device. Delirium Orb on the map. Go ahead and pop our Sentinel. Over here and pop these guys. We'll go ahead and swing back through. Make sure we got them all. Might take a death once in a while doing this. These guys can get really crazy with the Sentinel boost. But that time we cleared them up just fine. Pop this breach. Bad map layout for this. And we're not taking any breach on the tree, so we're not worried about clearing it. Okay, first altar, click that. Watch out for those poison balls. I'm just now realizing I don't think I killed the boss. Oh, it's probably over here at the top. Click this altar. I typically don't run Toxic Sewer as my main map. I just grabbed one out of the stash and rolled it up for the purposes of demonstration. But I think any map that has these corridors is really conducive to the Explode lifestyle. There's our boss. As you can see, the boss damage, not impressive. We do have the Guardian map Sextant going at the moment. So this is a particularly chunky boss. But the single target damage is never going to be awesome with this exact setup. But as you can see, not an issue. And we'll just come through and clean up. I will find the last few mobs here and loot this map, then we'll come back and talk about all the other stuff, the gear and the trees and all that stuff. So there you can see in my inventory the loot from the map that we did, and draw your own conclusions. It was pretty trash in terms of the return on Eldritch currency, but I prefer to run Crimson Temple in this league for obvious reasons. That was just the map I threw in. It was a good map though because it showcased that boss, which does a ton of chaos damage, and as you can see, we're at -3 unless we pop flasks, of which I have no charges, but when they are popped, we have well in the positive for chaos res, but it's not capped. and I tend to not over focus on chaos res, nor do I focus on really trying to push my max elemental res into the stratosphere. So 86 for fire is perfectly fine for me, because our life regen is going to carry us. It's at 1700 with the flasks up, and then if we pop the Enduring Cry, we go well over 4k real quick. That'll top you off, and it works for me, and it allows me to blast through maps. We have already made back, well, this is more than what I've spent on the character so far, and that's in just a couple days of farming. I haven't played every day this league. I've taken it fairly slow, particularly the first 5 or 6 days of the league. I was playing it probably 25% of what I normally would, because I was making videos and talking about the Arch Nemesis mod, stuff like that. So, everything is up and running. Oops. So let's go over all the gear pieces here. Helmet, trash. It's not even an RF helm. Doesn't have any of the stuff that you would normally want, aside from the life, the increased life regeneration rate, and maybe that regen roll, even though it's not very big. So I think I paid 50C, something like that for this, very cheap. Easily purchasable now, particularly because people are moving on to their second build. Lots of this stuff could even be cheaper than when I bought it. The way I'm doing the shield this time is I did experiment with a couple different ones, and this was the one that had the least max res on it, where the build still felt good to me. And you could always get one that has +3 fire, as well as +2 all, and then another element, whether it be cold or lightning. You could get as much as 2. I don't know if you can get 3. I don't know if you can get 3 fire, 3 lightning, and 2 all, but if you can do that, that would, I think, be the ideal scenario for a sort of like giga defensive shield. But as it stands, this one works just fine. It's got a nice regen roll on it. For me, if it's over 120 a second, then it transitions from being sort of like an okay thing to being sort of a desirable mod on an item. And so, but again, this is cheap. You can get this for less than an X. Boots are the standard Legacy of Fury. Here's our Curse Ring, trash. Doesn't even have a native life roll. It had to be crafted on. 1 res. And it's got a dead mod on there for the build, although it does have a nice dex roll. So you can easily get something like this on a cheap budget. Amulet, this exact amulet might be more expensive now, given that we know a lot more about how recombinators work. And some of these bases might go up in price. And you do have to allocate Whispers of Doom, which will cost you some gold oils. So depending on how it shakes out, the amulet could be slightly expensive. You could always just not go for the damage over time multiplier and just get like a fire damage roll. Or you could try and get whatever the cheapest +2 amulet is, because this is only a +1, that type of thing. Chest piece is decent, but nothing amazing. You could probably get something like this for 2 or 3 Exalt, I would expect, or possibly even cheaper now. And the main thing is the crafted max life as extra ES, and the 10% increased max life, and of course you want the regular raw life roll as well. But otherwise, ways that you could get a better chest piece would be to get one that has all of this, in addition to maybe a physical damage reduction roll, and the +8 to max life, +8% max life, and +7% max mana. I believe those are the values on that roll. Adding those 2 mods to this chest would be really nice. I have plans, though, to maybe try and do some Recombinator shenanigans to get the Explode line onto this chest piece, which would make the build really pop off. But again, that's a different thing. For the purposes of just getting the build running, I think you need to have the crafted line, and you really need that 10% increased max life and the raw life roll on the chest. I think the other stuff doesn't matter as much. And you really do want that +2 fire, +3 if you can get it, on the implicit roll. Which the Grand embers are significantly cheaper than they were last week, so that's totally attainable. Just spam it till you get it. Belt, I just typed in leather belt and sorted for most life, and I think I had like 20 or 30 C or something at the time, and this was the one I got. So it's got some chaos res, which is a cool bonus. I crafted armor and evasion on there. Evasion is a dead stat for us, but there wasn't a whole lot else I wanted that I had available at the time, and I've just never gone back to see like what else I could craft, even because I just don't care. So this ring, I think I paid 4x for it. It's kind of a luxury item, but I don't even think that it was an upgrade. I think I fucked up. And you would probably be better off with one that has +1 minimum frenzy with chance to gain a frenzy on kill, as well as +1 maximum endurance charges, and then similar stats to the rest of what's on there. The problem was I couldn't get anything like that had the fire damage line, and I really wanted that. I thought 20 whatever would be it would be a bigger damage boost than it was. It really wasn't. Although the additional life is nice. For gloves, as an Gentle Touch, I think they're like 1.3x, 1.5, something like that now. Very affordable, very attainable. Weapon is self-crafted, and it's not very good. It's only a +1. I don't remember exactly how I did it. I don't know if I bought the base with the +1 or if I just spammed harvest crafts on it until I got the +1 and the burning damage. I don't remember any of that, but you can get something like this for relatively cheap. And you could always give up the attack speed or the burning damage roll without too much of a problem. So yeah, let's take a look at the gem links. I think the biggest change that I make to the build in comparison to a lot of other people that I see playing it is, number one, I guess I've smashed the explode thing into the Inquisitor, which I think a lot of people play a different ascendancy for that purpose. And I haven't had any issue getting explode to work and maintaining the Inquisitor lifestyle, and that seems to work for me. So I'm running my Malevolence Aura linked with Divine Blessing, Life Tap, and increased duration. It takes a pretty fair chunk of our health, but if you do it right after Enduring Cry, it just isn't an issue. You can do it at the same time as popping Ball RF, and it's not a problem. Once or twice I've died when I pop Ball RF, but the actual blessing thing, it just hasn't been an issue. It seems like it just works, and it's great. It's got like a 20-second duration, and it kind of fits the theme of the build where like you're burning, you're sacrificing life, you're using life for all your skills, whatever. It's one more layer of sort of the fantasy of the character. And so I like it a lot. It's been one of the really pleasant surprises of the league. And it's allowed me to accomplish the rest of the setup without needing some items that, like ashes, for example, that got really expensive, that if I use those, it's sort of like, it's not really a budget build anymore at that point. And so I was really pleased to figure that out. So then in our weapon, we've got our Herald of Ash, our Enduring Cry, and Flame Dash. In the helmet, we've got the faster attacks linked with Life Tap and Shield Charge, and then off by itself, the Purity of Elements. In the shield, Molten Shell, Determination, and Defiance Banner. In our boots is our Trap setup, Burning Damage, the Trap and Mind Damage, and Life Tap. And then our RF setup is Life Tap, Awakened Elemental Focus, Righteous Fire. I've got the 21 Vol RF. You don't need it. You can just use a level 20 RF. It'll be fine. Awakened Burning Damage, Increased Area of Effect, and Swift Affliction. You can swap in Concentrated Effect for more boss damage. I often just forget because it just doesn't bother me to stand there for a few seconds longer, given how fast I clear the rest of the map. And this setup seems to be working pretty well. Long term, if you want to super invest in, the ashes and a mage blood and all the other goodies, an actual RF helmet, all of that stuff, you would probably change some of these gems around. And indeed, with all of those items last week, I was able to fit all of this in and not need the blessing thing, so you can remove that extra button at the cost of, a mirror or so. Whereas the total investment so far for me in this character is, I would say, less than 15x, 20x, give or take. and I'm pretty happy with that given the state of the game and the level of content I can clear pretty smoothly and enjoyably. And so yeah, that's the gem setup, and we'll go over how I get the auras going and all that stuff, and the tree next. So pretty standard stuff for the Inquisitor. Ascendancy points. Start over here. Come down here, get the regen, area of effect. We'll go over this stuff in a minute. Come up here, area of effect and fire damage. Come over here, fire damage multi, a little bit of ignite chance for our explode, fire mastery, reservation efficiency and life. Then we come down here. This is my glorious vanity. All I did this time around was I bought one, divined it until it had corrupted soul, and that's the one I used, whether it was good or not. In this case, we got kind of lucky, and there's a fire node here, so that didn't mess up our mastery setup. We don't have to use a bunch of dead nodes there, so that's kind of cool, but otherwise there's nothing good in here aside from this 1+1 max fire res node. But I didn't even know this one existed until this week. The one that I have on my character in standard is just full of like a bunch of crazy fire damage and life. It must actually be a really rare outcome, which is cool, but we didn't get that this time. But that means that somewhere there's gotta be one that has like 3 or 4 max fire res in here. And if that's the case, and they were like, if it was these 3 and like this one as well as this one, that would be pretty crazy. That would allow you to really do some fun stuff with, you could get rid of these points here and these 3. You could start getting into a second cluster setup and whatever. Could be cool. So, moving on, we come down here. The cluster setup I have is super budget. We've got Burning Bright, Widespread Destruction, and Smoking Remains on the large. And then on the medium, Cremator and Master of Fire. Pretty sure these are way cheaper than when I bought them, but these are not ideal. And then we've got a jewel here, nothing special. And another jewel here. Resolute Technique for shield charge. Life and fire res and whatever. Come up here. This is our explode area. So we take Avatar of Fire for the conversion. Mastery for the conversion. And then we allocate Arsonist because we need to anoint Whispers of Doom for the extra curse so that we can do the temp chains from the gloves as well as flammability. Jewel socket. Grab Juggernaut there. Come on down here. Call to arms for our war cries and swing through the life. These 3 nodes are basically just for the resist. The rest of it I don't think is that strong. And so if you get more resist or you feel comfortable, these 3 points can easily be used to turn that cluster setup, add another medium to it. Reservation here. And standard nodes here for Corrupted Blood Immunity and the max res. And then Unwavering Stance. And then we come up here, and this is a thing that I added this week. These are about 2x a piece. And it allows us to come over here to Conduit. And we're allocating this node for super easy jumping up to max endurance and frenzy charges when we're clearing the maps. I've really enjoyed this node. And then over here, we've got these awesome 4% life and 10 life gain on kill nodes. These are really nice, actually. I did some testing where I did some maps without them and with them, and it makes a difference. You notice it. Obviously, it's in conjunction with this, which is a great note as well. This recover 2% life on kill line is really cool. So for 2x, I thought this was kind of a fun, it's probably not like min-maxed or super OP or anything, but it's fun. It was noticeable, and it was an interesting way that I got to experiment with a new item, so I'm really happy with that. And then I think the last thing I'll mention is normally you have to take all of these nodes, all 4, but because we're using the Blessing, I was able to eliminate a node from here, and so that's why we're, if you're trying to do a similar thing, and you don't have to take this area of effect, you can take that one out. So that's 2 points if you're, struggling for levels or whatever to try and make some stuff work. And you don't need this setup. You could just as easily put a cheap, the cheapest Watcher's Eye you can find in there, or just another shitty jewel or whatever, and then grab some more life here. or depending on what you've got going on with your glorious vanity, you could allocate those points in here to grab some stuff. Like, for example, here I've got, where is it? I believe it's up here, actually. Chaos res, and then some actual damage and more chaos res. You can allocate those. Stuff like that. So that's basically the tree. That's how we get everything running. I think we'll move on here, and the last thing we'll do is go over the Atlas passive tree. So here's the Atlas. We don't even have all the favored slots, but we've got them all set up for Crimson Temple. That is the map of choice this league. It's got too many good cards, and the layout for me is actually pretty good in terms of being able to utilize the explode to really prevent us from taking tons and tons of one-shot damage. And so I've been enjoying that quite a bit. Let's take a look at the actual tree here. I come up and grab the Strongbox node, and then come up here. We're going to swing around and block Abyss. We're going to block Expedition, and we're going to block Legion. So we're going to come through the Shrines. Harbinger here. Come down and block Metamorph. Block Blight and Ritual. And we're going to come up here, Harbinger nodes. Come through and grab a bunch of stuff in the middle. This node you can take away. I just like the extra duplication chance as opposed to taking the Strongbox reopen ability chance. Come up here. You do not need to take this node if you're trying to level. I just recommend, like, absolutely don't take this node. With this variant of the build, I was having a lot of trouble staying alive long enough to level past 95 while I was allocating this node. Maybe at the gear level that I'm at right now, you know, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal because I did just upgrade the ring and our gems leveled up and a couple other things happened, but I don't even know if that would have been enough. So if you're leveling, I would recommend against that, but it does definitely lead to more currency gains. And we're allocating Stream of Consciousness and the Strongbox nodes here, as well as these map nodes. Sustain is kind of weird. It may, in fact, be necessary to keep taking these two clusters here, but for now, I've dropped them. Harbinger here, Shrines here. Div cards for strong boxes here. Come up and grab the Sextant cluster, as well as Conqueror map chance. Then coming over to this side of the tree, we're going to grab all the red influence nodes. This one is Omega Rippy. So again, if you're leveling, I would just recommend avoiding it, as well as avoid the Beyond. The last few points that we'll get, we'll probably move some stuff around and come down here and get the rest of the Beyond stuff, and maybe some additional Delirium stuff, if we can. Otherwise, we're grabbing this for extra Delirium reward chance, and then we come up here and finish off with the rest of the red influence nodes. And so really, that's it. I just pop the maps in and throw some Sextants on, throw on the influence, do one of these if you need, and don't forget to throw on your Domination Shrine. Another tip that I would have for leveling is don't be afraid to just go into the map, pop your Sentinel, don't turn your RF on, and just run through the mobs with shield charge until you pick up a couple shrines. Then turn your RF on, go blow up a pack or two of normal mobs, and then hit your Vol RF and all your defensives, and then go back and slaughter everything, and you'll be fine. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask below. I'm happy to offer any knowledge that I do have that I didn't mention here, though there are certainly lots of other content creators that have much more comprehensive guides if you're more interested in trying to run the current most popular variant of the build with the Aegis Aurora and whatever. This is more just, I wanted to do it cheaper. I wanted to be more laid back this league and see what I could do without spending 20 to 50 Exalt per item. And I also would like to move on and maybe try other builds this week. I have a couple ideas, but if there's a build, you know, there's enough people watching these videos now, you guys kind of know what I like in gameplay. And, you know, is there a build I'm sleeping on that I should be trying that is super fun for just slamming low to mid-juiced map content? Is there a game mechanic that I'm not understanding well enough to know how fun it would be if I did? Expedition is one I know very little about. I just kind of don't engage with it. Is that Am I making a criminal mistake there? Should I be making a character for Expedition? Let me know what you think about that. Otherwise, I will be back shortly with maybe some kind of a wrap-up video on my thoughts on the current state of the Arch Nemesis mods, and maybe some more updates on this character. And as I said, I am looking into doing another character in the near future, and also I've got a couple ideas for maybe some crafting exploits with the recombinators. So look forward to that. And as always, if you're enjoying this content, please do hit that like and subscribe button. That really helps out. And I will see you in the next video. I appreciate you.